How many of you as leaders struggle with different challenges but find it difficult to speak up, find it difficult to express because you are somewhere stopped by the whole stigma surrounding the so-called leadership role or the leadership position that you are in? Happens? Great. I'm Astha Tatia, daughter of two rock-solid pillars, mother to a lovely daughter, wife of a humor king, an engineer, MBA, corporate executive, turned anchor person, and now a happiness coach, helping corporate leaders create deep connects and meaningful relationships in their organizations. And today, I welcome all of you to yet another episode of Tete a Tete with Movers and Shakers. And why did I ask you this question in the beginning? Because today I have with me a leader who is, of course, I'm going to be talking about his corporate journey for sure. But I would say he's been my senior during my engineering. So I've known him from there back then. But he is somebody who's going to be presenting, talking about his live journey of steering through the challenge that he has been facing. A lot of challenges, but he's going to be talking about that. And I think that is going to be a clear example of vulnerability that is so critical for every individual, but even more so in leadership roles, right? So heading straight to this gentleman, his name is Mr. Suresh Khemka. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
It is such a pleasure to have you today. Thank you for agreeing to be a part of the show. And quickly to let you know, he's had a 16-year stint in the corporate world. He's the senior director in Target Tech, okay, and he basically is heading a team of almost 70 people across India. He leads production engineering teams in the infrastructure portfolio. And prior to Target, he's been with organizations like Ernst& Young, Oracle, and Walmart Labs, Infosys in different capacities. He has two lovely daughters, loves to play squash, and is also an avid reader, right? So he reads evolutionary psychology and behavioral economics. Wow, isn't that amazing? Great. So, such a pleasure to have you. And I'm so excited because the conversation that I had with you prior to this was it kind of instilled that excitement into me, the whole vulnerability thing. I've also gone through that journey and I know it is not easy to be vulnerable. So I'm so excited to hear about your story and hear it out from you, right? So a very warm welcome once again, a very warm welcome to all of you once again. If you like this episode, you find it meaningful, you are really able to walk away with some real-time tactics for yourself, then please hit the like button. Also subscribe to the channel. Okay, so let's get started. And 16 years, a long time. I want to know how have you steered through? How have you evolved in this leadership journey through
Mhm.
these 16 years?
So, few things are intentional and few things, you learn along the way. That's the right. So, it has been I would say, very fulfilling journey so far. And it was with its own bumps along the way. And I, it's not like that I always wanted to become a leader. Yes, I have wanted to become a leader in my college days and I did become, but when I joined the industry, right, and I was, somebody told me one day that, okay, hey, never become a manager, right? Because managers are the ones who are fired first, right? So that stuck with me for a while. And I was a reasonably good engineer. I would say I was lucky that I got very good opportunities. I worked with some great people since beginning of my career who helped me along the way. I got to learn a lot of things, right? And somewhere I think 10 years or 7 to 8 years when I was in the industry and I realized that, okay, I don't see that, okay, we are doing the right thing, right? Whatever organization I was, or we should do things a different way. We should do different things or we should do things different way. And how do I influence that, right? So that's where, I realized that, okay, I'm a good individual contributor, okay, uh, and I'm performing well, but it's a time to change tracks and become a manager. And management and leadership are two different things, right? And I would say it's evolution, right? So you start with management, and then you learn along the way, and you get to a position where you think you can lead people, right? Managing people and leading people, I think, are totally two different things, right? So that's how it happened. And when I realized, I need to scale myself, my thought process, my knowledge, I need to be a leader. And it just happened, it just happened in a way that I wanted to do that. I got support and I got into it. But it was totally different from what I have thought, When you are very good in the job, what you do, and when you are kind of, doing very well, right? So you think it's just, change of a role, right? You were responsible for deliverables. You can, do that. And now you just need to lead people, right? And you are good technically, so you can do it. But it's not. And I really struggled initially. I struggled a lot, and I can say that yes, with help of a lot of mentors, a lot of other leaders who I watched how they were leading the teams, who helped me, supported me, and my family, obviously, So I would say I have come a long way since then, but this was not easy. This was not an easy road.
Sure, I'm sure. Would you want to talk about, you spoke about the challenges and the struggles as a leader. You said it
Mhm.
wasn't easy. Could you talk more about those challenges? What were the struggles?
Sure. I think the first struggle of every engineer or every person who is doing a job, and he's responsible for his objectives, his own objective and goals, right? But when he or she starts, managing people, it's difficult. It's difficult because now you are not responsible for your deliverables. You are responsible for the team's deliverables, right? And then, if you are good at your job, it's like, okay, I can do it better than other people, right? So I will do everything. And then that's what happened with me. I started doing everything myself, and
Wow.
then I realized that, okay, I am not helping myself or my team. So that's a big realization that, okay, maybe your team will struggle, if there is a particular team member who is not as good as you are now, okay, but given the opportunity, he or she can, become better than you. So it's not about getting the job done. It's about helping your team get the job done. So that
Oh,
was the first lesson which I learned, and when I was told this thing, so my team was delivering well, I was delivering well, everybody was happy. But one of my senior directors at that point of time took me aside, and when he told me, it was like, wow, I was missing, the basics, right? So
oh.
that was a big realization. So I would say that was the first misconception or first hurdle which I have to cross.
Okay, so you were not delegating, as I understand, you were doing it all yourself,
Yes,
right?
delegation is the right word,
Yeah.
I would
Wow.
say.
Wow.
But that's one part, right? How do you delegate? It's not easy. Learning to delegate is something which, you cannot learn from books or cannot learn in a course, right? So you have to understand how do you want to delegate.
Yeah.
And then I think the fear that, okay, you want things to be perfect, right? And that fear of perfection, stops from delegating. So yes, you can say it's delegating, but I think it's somewhere in your personality, in somewhere, how do you view your job, and it's also depend upon the environment which you are working on.
And it's a skill that you can learn as a leader to be able to
Absolutely.
delegate.
I think there is no skill which you cannot learn. So
Hmm. Lovely.
just you need to have a growth mindset, right? So,
Awesome.
and there are few skills which you have to learn. Without them, you cannot survive.
You cannot survive. Great. So you spoke about, so two things here I want to pick. One, that journey from not delegating, like you want everything to be just amazing, and so better I only do it. So from there, learning to delegate, how did you, um, how did it benefit you? How did it change you as an individual, as a leader? Okay, what do you think were the outcomes or the impacts? And then I'll come to growth mindset that you spoke about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing when you start delegating, you learn how to cede control, and in management theory, we talk about command and control structure, right? And I would say I am fortunate enough working in an industry where it's different from other industries, right? We are not manufacturing things where you have to do certain things in the same way, right? And you can keep on doing them, you can keep repeating them. Today's industry, or at least software industry, is about knowledge, right? And you are not doing the same thing again and again, right? The challenges which you face, the opportunities which you have every day, they are different ones, right? So when you start ceding that control and have confidence in your team and your co-workers, right, that can open doors to many things, because it brings a lot of different perspectives, right? People have different ways of doing the same thing, and they can do better than you, right? You cannot be absolute best at everything, right? So
Hmm.
that helps a lot, and from there, I think it's more about, okay, you get out from day to day things, right? How do you help people realize their potential? How do you help, how do you inspire, people to do the right thing, right? And how do you how do you decide the direction, right? So it's not about just doing the things. Okay, what are the things which we are going to do, how we are going to do that, so more about strategizing, more about helping people, more about getting things done, it changes you, right? That way you learn so many things.
Sure, sure. And what was the on the outside? What was the difference that you experienced, maybe in terms of the results or
Mhm.
the productivity? Was there any shift?
Absolutely, there was a huge shift, right? It changed me as a person also, right? It
Hmm.
changed me as a person, not only a person, like how do I deal with my daughter. It also changed that, right?
Wow.
So like we try to protect our family members, right? We try to protect our daughters and sons, right? But that tells you that, okay, hey, you cannot protect everyone and every time, right? So you have to help them learn along the way, right? So it changes the mindset, right? I think it's not only a professional journey for me, but it's a growing kind of journey for me as a person also.
Awesome. Very well said. Beautiful. So you used a term growth mindset,
Mhm.
right? Now, did you always have a growth mindset? I think you did mention that earlier, probably no, you thought this is how it is supposed to be done and this is how I will do it, right? So,
Mhm.
how did you really develop that growth mindset? And so, yeah, talk to me about that growth mindset.
Okay, so I would not say that you have growth mindset or you need to build growth mindset. I think we all have little bit of it, right?
Okay.
It's how we nurture it, right? It's or how do we deal with situations, right? So so if you like, I remember in my student days, right? And you have to pass an exam, right? And I know I was never I never passed with like distinctions or flying colors in college. Maybe in school I was, but it was a small town and a very less sample size, right? So how do you deal with this, right? And then we come up with different shortcuts to find out, okay, to accomplish things what we do, right? But when you hit a problem, right, how do you deal with that problem? Does when you hit a hurdle, right, how do you deal with that hurdle? That do you think that I can't do this, or does it kind of makes you feel that, okay, maybe I cannot do it today, but if I put enough effort or I try different ways or different approaches, I can do it, right? I think that's all about growth mindset. As you mentioned, I read a lot about behavioral economics and evolutionary psychology. So obviously, growth mindset is one which. So there are a lot of definitions about that. But for me, it is about, okay, how do we deal with problems? How do we deal with problems at our workplace, in our life, right? Do we give up easily, or do we say, okay, I'm gonna figure out a solution for this. I'm gonna learn this new thing, and I will keep on improving, right? So that's a growth mindset for me.
Wow. And any specific challenge that you've evolved through, you were facing, and because you had a growth mindset, you said, "Okay, let me just face it, let me confront it," and then you've steered through it. Any such thing in your life?
Well, I think a lot of things, right? It's not like one time or twice you have to display, right? So again, when I became a manager, right, first time, and I was literally struggling, right? I was struggling how to manage my time. I was struggling how to balance my work and life. And maybe work life balance is a cliche today, but how do I make good use of my time, which helps me and my team to grow, right? So, and obviously, as I told you, non-delegating was one of the problems, right? I was doing so many things at the same time, and that's where when I was told that, okay, hey, that's the problem, right? And it's not like that I was not thinking about it. It just, it takes time to break those habits, the behaviors which you have, right? You have to change your behavior. I think mostly when you are leading a team or leading people, it's about your behaviors, right? What behaviors you are displaying every day. So it's tuning or changing those behaviors, right? So that's where I started, reflecting, you can say, in a way, that introspecting, that okay, maybe I know this technology best in my team as of now, but if I do not give a chance to other people to learn, and in the process they will make mistakes, they will do something wrong, right? And while my job was like, this particular, when I first become manager, it was more like, very high risk job, where you have to keep supply chain systems for one of the largest, retailer, and you cannot make mistakes, right? Because mistakes can prove very costly. But still, you can give it a try. You can, help your team members so they can learn, with you, right? So, and they might, again, it's about, kind of controlling yourself. It's kind of thinking that, okay, do not look at the short term, look at the long term, right? And that worked very well, that okay, how do I delegate more? How do I decide what to delegate, right? And I know I also made mistakes. Okay, and it's not like, okay, it's like a light bulb which, just, you switch a flick, which opens in, and mind, and you start doing things perfectly, right? You can't. It's a process, it's a journey. So when I made a conscious decision that I am going to start delegating better, right? It's not like that I was best at it or perfect at it. It took me some time. There were some failures along the way, and it's not like I would say that I am doing the best job, even now. I am learning every day. So, but the process of continuous learning, learning from your experiences, reflecting, taking feedback from people, and figuring out that, okay, how can I do better next time? I think
Hmm.
that's what has helped me.
And how vulnerable have you been? You very vulnerable right now. You're sharing a lot of things, but through this journey, how vulnerable were you? Yeah, when it came to sharing what you were dealing with.
I think that is also one part of your personality, right? And we say, and I know a lot of management theory and leadership theory is about keeping your emotions outside of your workplace, right? I have been a very emotional or a sentimental person, right? And I know, we say, okay, boys normally do not cry, right? But I have cried a lot watching movies, right? I still remember Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum when I was in college. Like I was like,
In tears.
yeah. So I still cry. I still cry, watching, a lot of movies, or Netflix or Amazon Prime, right? So I have always been vulnerable, right? I have always been very open with my friends, with my, peer group. It's just that maybe somewhere it becomes a flow that you share too much, right? So that's what I have learned. Also, that okay, yes, there, to a certain degree you need to be vulnerable, but that's also something which you keep on learning, right? So as a leader, and it's very important that if you, so it's about, vulnerability is about actually being true to yourself, right, with other people.
Mm.
And if you try to maintain that facet, right, that okay, hey, I have everything under control, I am doing good, or like I don't make mistakes, then that's a problem, right? So that vulnerability helped me. It enabled me to go and seek out help, to go and talk to people, to
Mm.
vent, to go and talk, tell them that, hey, I am not happy about it, or I am not doing good, I feel that I can do better and I am struggling. So that's how, I think, and when you go and seek out help, you
Yeah.
get that help, right? But if you do not seek that help, just to keep those appearances, I think that that becomes a problem, and then you never learn.
Hmm. Great. So you said, so when you are vulnerable and you seek out help, you get help.
Right.
Wow. So while you were on this journey of vulnerability, where you were seeking out help, you were sharing also, uh, did it ever bother you, or ever did such instances occur where um, the image that Suresh Khemka had as a leader was in danger? You went through that fear because there is so much of a stigma associated around being a leader, and a lot of times leaders feel, no, 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 I'm not supposed to exhibit or expose this side of me. I know that that's about vulnerability, but yes, that stigma is so huge at times because people see you in a certain light and you want to be seen in a certain light, and there's such a rock solid self image, a facade that you've created, that you don't want it to be touched.
True. And so I read a term some time back, FOPO. I know everybody knows FOMO, fear of missing out, but I think uh, and I believe to a certain extent, every one of us have that, right? So even I am having it right now. Somewhere in my mind is, okay, when people see this, what they're going to think about me? Am I making the right, sentences, or how will they think about my accent, or I don't know, whatever. Right? So I
Wow.
call it, it is called fear of other people's opinion. So FOPO, right? Fear of other people's opinion. And that actually, when you are a manager or a leader, and then you want to come out strong, right? Somewhere you feel that, okay, and it's not like that you have to come out weak. Also, there is a balance everywhere, right? So you want to come out strong, and you want to impress people, you want to go get your job done, and for that you need to elicit support from multiple people, people whom you are working with. You need to get your team members aligned to your vision and strategy, right? You need have support from your higher management, right? And we usually make, we fear those other people's opinion, right? What they are going to think about me. Okay, am I saying the right thing? Am I, I think in today's Zoom world, it's also very difficult. Okay, what is my right body posture? Okay, do am I shuffling a lot, right? So, and that, I think that Zoom fatigue, because I right now I'm looking at myself also while looking at you. So, that FOPO actually stops you from being authentic you. And that's happened with me. And I think somewhere that FOPO occurs because we all have a inherent desire of being perfect. Or maybe it's the way, we are raised in our society, like in our schools, we go, you cannot give a wrong answers. If you give a wrong answer when your class teacher asks you something, you are admonished and you feel ashamed, right? So that kind of, when we are we are afraid of failing, right? When we are afraid that, okay, hey, I cannot make a mistake, and obviously having other people think about you that, okay, you are a failure, or you did something wrong, or you made a mistake, that I believe is one of the biggest reason where you stop being yourself, right? And it kind of dents your confidence, right? So and and somewhere we also, I think, and I will now lean on my reading on behavioral psychology, right? So uh, there are a lot of biases we have, right? And one of the biases, is negativity bias, which is like, if we do something good, maybe we feel good about it and positive about it, but we forget about it very easily. So you achieved something, that gives you a high for a short while. But if you do something wrong, if something wrong happens to you, if you fail, that impacts us much more than the positive things. So we human tend to have that negativity bias. And as they say, every book or every article you will read about, that all these things, biases helps us survive, right? That's how we have evolved as human beings, right? So but then it can have a negative impact when we start looking at negatives too much. So in a meeting, maybe you made a comment, or you said something which was wrong. That's fine. Or maybe you started a project which was your pet project. You say, okay, hey, this is the thing which we need to do, and you do that, and it fails spectacularly, right? And that's where you get a dent on your confidence if you dwell too much on your negative experiences.
Hmm.
So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. So that just raises another question, brings another question in my mind. So when you're going through all of this, w- I'm assuming that you've gone through this, right? So, what really happened? I want to know, like real time, as if you're running that movie. What
Mhm.
really happened with you? So, when you have this, maybe you did something, it didn't work out the way you wanted it to work, or and then this is what I thought, and then this is how I got out of it, or this is how it impacted, and then this is how I worked on it. So, I want to know that real time, the whole
Mhm.
mechanism. How did it happen?
So again, few things happens. Obviously, when you are good at what you do, you are successful. There is a certain expectation from you.
Sure.
Invariably, along the way, you will make mistakes.
Hmm.
Okay, and maybe the it's about have your self image, right? And when you made a mistake and maybe people point it out, or something went down, which caused maybe some loss, to some metric, right? We are a metric driven, in business, right? In at least in my segment of the industry, production engineering, right? So, and it might be sometime because of the factor under your control, and or there are factors which are not under your control.
Yeah.
And we have to realize that, okay, what is in your control, what you can influence and what you cannot influence, right? But what it makes you think about is, because as I said, we harp on or we dwell too much upon our negative experiences or something goes wrong, and you get into a loop of thought process, right? And I am more of a thinking kind of person, right? I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot, right? My mind is like neurons are firing every time,
Yeah.
and I cannot sit still, right? I have a very typical monkey mind, I believe. Maybe everyone would have, but
Don't we all have it?
we all have it. But when I am in shower, I am still thinking about work. I'm planning my day, or I'm saying, okay, how do I solve this problem, right? And when sometimes you fail, sometimes you just can't do few things which you set out to do, right? So
Yeah.
that can that that can make self doubt creep inside your mind,
Hmm.
and that self doubt happened with me. That, okay, am I good enough? And while I was growing professionally at a very, I would say, high speed, right? Because I was doing a lot of things right,
Hmm.
and but I was dwelling upon those few things which I was not doing right. I
Hmm.
wanted to be perfect, right? And
Hmm.
now if I realize, that, okay, and I think when you are in that zone, when you are in that mode, you don't realize it. Either you have somebody who helps you, deconstruct the whole thing,
Yeah.
okay, or you have to introspect, you have to reflect, right? So and when you dwell a lot on negative, it starts also affecting your health, which happened with me, right? So
Hmm.
and that's where you figure out that, okay, hey, why this is happening to me? And as people say, right, crisis and opportunity. So until unless it hits a tipping point, that's where you realize that, okay, hey, I need to take a step back and I need to figure this thing out, why this is happening. So and sometimes it just, you don't realize that this is happening with you, because you are so much caught up in the things. You are in an autopilot,
Yeah.
going through your day, going through your job, going through. And obviously last 1 year, we all know, has been like,
True.
it's, I don't know, I can't say a single word to describe it. We go through so many emotions, and like
Yeah.
maintaining that sanity, right? So a lot of changes.
True.
So how do you deal with it? That is something which, but again, it's all about, realizing it. It's realizing it, at a time before a crisis occurs, right? Before you go too deep down that rabbit hole. So
Wow. So this is so amazing that you, on one side, you were shooting up like immense progress, and here there was self doubt also coming in, despite all that progress, right? And then you got into that loop, and then wow.
so
So
maybe I will throw one more psychology term here: imposter syndrome. And I
ah.
think, I had that, I still have it, right, in certain cases, right? So
Hmm.
and and that can happen,
Hmm.
from outside it might look like that you are growing, you are successful, but you still can have, lot of doubts about yourself,
Yeah.
and you are not in a happy place
Hmm.
within your mind.
Hmm.
So that can happen.
That can happen. And then, so since you've brought this up, so when it comes to happiness, because as a leader, like you said, now it's not just about you and you growing and you maintaining your sanity and all. It's those 70 people also along with you. It's your entire team. So happy leader, happy team, and then happy organizations. It's all there. How do you ensure that happiness for you in the middle of all of this? You have imposter syndrome also that you're dealing with. You have all those different things that keep coming in. The way our minds play with us.
Mhm.
How do you ensure your happiness?
I would not say I have a single answer to that, right? There are
Yeah.
multiple strategies which I have learned. And
Okay.
when I had, when I said, I had my health going down and I was like not in a happy place, I realized, okay, what's happening with me? Why I am so much stressed, right?
Mm.
And somewhere you can say it was my job, right? So I would, you know, there will be a certain situation where you have to take decisions on the fly, and then, you know, uh, you kind of get into that zone whole day, 24 hour, 24 by 7, right?
Yeah.
So I started meditating, okay, and that's one thing. Second thing, I started journaling, right? So it's about, okay, thinking about how do you think, right?
Mm.
And I think second thing is not to take things too seriously, okay? If you fail at something, fail like a scientist, learn from those failures, right? And I think many things, which helps, one is, from outward, that, okay, how do you get back to your, zone? How do you help yourself figure out that, okay, what's happening with you? And I don't think somebody from outside, they can provide you support, right? They can guide you, but ultimately it's up to you. So I think it's about creating good habits, creating good habits and figuring out, okay, what are those bad habits I have, or behaviors which, like getting angry, or, getting irritated too quickly. How do you keep, how
Mm.
do you keep calm, basically? So again, many things. And talking to people, I think, talking to people is something which helps a lot. So if you can go and vent out, somebody who can give you, who can listen to you without passing judgments, with empathy, that is quite important. I think everybody, I am lucky that I have a few people in my life, whom I can go and I can talk about myself without, fear of judgment.
Awesome.
So that's also help.
Lovely. Great. So I think amazing. So I think this is, a lot of valuable insights that I've gotten from the discussion that we had, and I think I would just want, the end to end this with your view on how long do you think this whole journey of when you, whether it is being the vulnerability or learning to delegate or maybe overcoming the barriers, your own barriers, how long do you think is this journey? Because a lot of times we are so used to this instant gratification, why doesn't it happen now, or how can I turn around things in 1 week?
Mhm.
So how long did it take for you? I mean, I'm sure the journey is still on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can say that the journey, as you said, journey is on, right? Journey is always on, right? And
Yeah.
no, I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day. There are things which I realize, I should not be doing, but I am still doing them. But
Yeah.
it's not like, you, as I said, perfection. Perfection is enemy of good, right? So maybe you will do things which you say, okay, I should not be doing, right? But you will fall back sometime, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that those setbacks you should not let, to pull you back, right? It's like New Year resolution. So you
Right.
take a resolution at a New Year that I am going to exercise every day or go to gym, and you go 3 4 days, and fifth days you are sorry, you don't go.
Yeah.
No, you cannot let that, stop you from getting to gym the next day, right? Or
Mm.
next day after, right?
Mm.
So I think the journey is ongoing, but for me, I think initial 2 3 years were quite tough. Okay, in terms of learning and in terms of figuring out, and uh, after that I felt that, okay, now I have realized, okay, how, what I'm supposed to do. Okay, and how I'm supposed to, what changes I need to bring in myself, right? What habits I need to stop doing, what new things I need to start doing, and how should I change my behavior. And as you said, it's still ongoing, right? It's still
Yeah.
ongoing.
So it calls for a huge commitment towards yourself.
That reminds me of, title of a book which I read some time back. I think Marshall Goldsmith. He's an executive coach. What got you here won't get you there, right? So
Yeah, correct.
whatever I have learned so far might work now, but maybe 2 year down the line, is this something, what I have built along the way I need to change?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Wow. Awesome. So I think those were some amazing inputs, and I think how beautifully you've summed it up. We had little time, so uh, sharing. Thank you for sharing that. How maybe from that small example of delegation as one area that you picked up. I'm sure there were many more, and how you acquired that skill and you worked on it and you're still working on it. I'm sure it's an everyday journey where you're evolving and you get something every day. But more than that, seeking help, understanding your behaviors, being committed. Okay, where can I change? What needs to be turned around? And I think a lot of times, for you, it was your health, which was like an alarm. Okay, now I need to really do something about it. And that's where you say, so I think a huge message goes out there that as leaders, there's so much that you are doing, commendable, but it is so important to uh, be vulnerable and I think have that commitment towards yourself. Seek out whatever support that is needed. If you're able to do it on your own, great. But you may need some help, you may need advice, you may need some feedback, feed forward. Do not hesitate. Go out, make that choice of really seeking that help. And I think it's so important. And I love that. What was that? FOPO? No, fear of people's opinions. Yeah,
Fear of other people's opinion.
other people's opinions. Yes, I think all of us are dealing with everybody, and I think immense. I think great input. Thank you, Suresh, so much. And um, lovely to hear. And also the great point on happiness, where you said it's not a single definition or a single task that you can really define or associate with happiness, but it's a series of activities that you do it over and over again to ensure that you may manage your happiness. Lovely. So it was such a pleasure talking to you, connecting with you like this after so many years. And thank you so much for your input.
Sure,
Any
it was great, and I would say you summed up pretty well. So it's nice.
Great. Thank you. Anything I missed out, you can probably add on. No? Okay.
No, great summary, I would say.
Great. Thank you so much. And all of you out there watching this, listening to this video, please share your comments, your experiences of being part of corporate landscape, and how have you come across or dealt with a lot of other things, or how has your experience been? And do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you think this was purposeful, it carried some meaning for you. So, pleasure. Thank you so much. And stay tuned uh, till we come back with yet another episode of Teta Tet with Movers and Shakers. Thank you so much. Thank you, Suresh. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Okay.